In the bustling heart of Silicon Valley stood a sleek, glass-fronted building that housed the headquarters of GoldenTech, a startup renowned for its revolutionary algorithms. At the helm was a brilliant but increasingly greedy tech entrepreneur named Ethan. His partner and wife, Lisa, was equally ambitious, and together they had built GoldenTech from a garage-based idea into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. The company's crown jewel was an algorithm known as GoldenEgg. This sophisticated piece of code had the uncanny ability to predict stock market trends with uncanny accuracy, turning modest investments into substantial profits. GoldenEgg was the goose that laid golden eggs, and it had made Ethan and Lisa fabulously wealthy. Ethan, a tall man with sharp features and an ever-present smirk, was often seen in the press boasting about his latest ventures and the limitless potential of GoldenTech. Lisa, equally sharp but more reserved, managed the company's finances and public relations. Together, they were the power couple of the tech world, admired by many and envied by more. However, as the years went by, Ethan's greed began to consume him. He was no longer satisfied with the steady stream of wealth that GoldenEgg provided. He wanted more, much more. He dreamed of becoming a billionaire, of dominating the financial world, and of leaving a legacy that would be remembered for centuries. One evening, as the couple sat in their lavishly furnished penthouse overlooking the San Francisco Bay, Ethan broached the subject that had been weighing on his mind. "Lisa," he said, leaning forward in his chair, "I've been thinking. GoldenEgg is incredible, but it's not enough. We're leaving too much money on the table." Lisa raised an eyebrow, her expression a mix of curiosity and caution. "What do you mean, Ethan? GoldenEgg is our golden goose. It's providing us with more wealth than we could ever spend." Ethan shook his head, his eyes gleaming with avarice. "But imagine if we could get all the golden eggs at once. What if we could sell the algorithm itself, not just the predictions it generates? Think about it, Lisa. We could name our price, and the highest bidder would pay it, no questions asked." Lisa frowned, considering the implications. "But Ethan, that's risky. GoldenEgg is our competitive edge. If we sell it, we lose our source of income. And what if the buyer replicates it, or worse, improves upon it? We'd be left with nothing." Ethan waved her concerns away with a dismissive gesture. "Nonsense, Lisa. We're the ones who created GoldenEgg. We know its inner workings better than anyone else. We could always create something even better. Besides, think about the immediate payoff. We could retire tomorrow and live like kings for the rest of our lives." Lisa was silent for a moment, weighing the pros and cons. Finally, she sighed and nodded. "All right, Ethan, if you think it's the right move, I'll support you. But we need to be careful. We can't afford to make any mistakes." Ethan grinned, his plan already forming in his mind. "Don't worry, Lisa. I've got it all figured out. We'll find the highest bidder, sell GoldenEgg, and then disappear into the sunset. By the time anyone realizes what's happened, we'll be long gone." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Ethan and Lisa hired a team of lawyers and financial advisors to help them navigate the complex process of selling such a valuable asset. They also reached out to potential buyers, discreetly gauging interest and negotiating terms. As the negotiations progressed, Ethan's excitement grew. He could almost taste the billions that were within his reach. He began to make extravagant plans for their future, envisioning private islands, luxury yachts, and a life of unparalleled opulence. Lisa, on the other hand, grew increasingly anxious. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a grave mistake. She tried to voice her concerns to Ethan, but he was too consumed by his greed to listen. He brushed aside her worries, insisting that everything would be fine. Finally, after weeks of intense negotiations, Ethan and Lisa found their buyer. a wealthy hedge fund manager named Victor. Victor was known for his ruthless business tactics and his willingness to pay top dollar for valuable assets. He agreed to pay Ethan and Lisa an astronomical sum for GoldenEgg, with the condition that they provide him with a demonstration of the algorithm's capabilities before finalizing the deal. Ethan and Lisa agreed, confident that GoldenEgg would perform flawlessly. They arranged a meeting at Victor's opulent office in New York City, where they would showcase the algorithm's predictive powers. The day of the meeting arrived, and Ethan and Lisa flew to New York with high hopes. They were greeted by Victor, a middle-aged man with a stern expression and a sharp suit. He led them into a conference room, where a team of his analysts waited eagerly to see GoldenEgg in action. Ethan took a deep breath and began the demonstration. He inputted a series of stock market data into the algorithm, and within seconds, GoldenEgg generated a set of predictions. The analysts scrutinized the results, their faces a mix of awe and skepticism. Victor, however, remained expressionless. He studied the predictions for a moment before nodding slowly. "Impressive," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "But I need to see more. I need to be convinced that this algorithm is worth the price you're asking." Ethan and Lisa exchanged a nervous glance. They had expected Victor to be blown away by the demonstration, not skeptical. Nevertheless, they agreed to provide him with additional data and run more tests. Over the next few hours, Ethan and Lisa worked tirelessly to prove GoldenEgg's worth. They ran the algorithm through countless scenarios, each time generating accurate predictions. But no matter how impressive the results, Victor remained unimpressed. Finally, after hours of fruitless effort, Ethan lost his patience. "Look, Victor," he said, his voice rising in frustration. "We've shown you that GoldenEgg works. It's the most advanced algorithm of its kind. You're never going to find anything like it again. So, what's it going to be? Are you in or out?" Victor studied Ethan for a moment before leaning back in his chair. "I'm out," he said calmly. "Your algorithm may be impressive, but it's not worth the risk. There are too many variables in the stock market, and no algorithm can predict them all with perfect accuracy. I'm not going to invest billions of dollars in something that could fail at any moment." Ethan and Lisa were stunned. They had never considered the possibility that Victor would walk away from the deal. They had been so confident in GoldenEgg's abilities that they had failed to see the flaws in their plan. As they left Victor's office, Ethan's mind raced with thoughts of what had gone wrong. He had been so sure that selling GoldenEgg was the right move, but now he realized that he had been blinded by greed. He had forgotten the old adage, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." Lisa, meanwhile, was consumed by regret. She had tried to warn Ethan, but he had refused to listen. Now they had lost their golden goose, and with it, their source of wealth and stability. The couple returned to Silicon Valley in defeat, their dreams of untold riches shattered. They tried to go back to business as usual, but it was no use. Without GoldenEgg, GoldenTech was just another startup in a sea of competitors. Their revenue plummeted, and they were forced to lay off employees and cut costs. Ethan and Lisa's marriage also suffered. The stress of their failed venture took a toll on their relationship, and they began to blame each other for their misfortunes. They argued constantly, their once strong bond fraying at the seams. In the end, Ethan and Lisa were forced to sell GoldenTech for a fraction of its former value. They moved out of their penthouse and into a modest apartment. Their once glamorous lifestyle a distant memory. Ethan often found himself reflecting on his actions, wondering what might have been if he had not been so greedy. He realized that he had taken GoldenEgg for granted, assuming that its success would last forever. But in his quest for more, he had lost everything he had worked so hard to build. Lisa, too, learned a valuable lesson from their ordeal. She realized that true wealth was not measured in dollars and cents, but in the love and happiness she shared with those around her. She vowed to never let greed cloud her judgment again, and to always appreciate the blessings in her life. And so, the story of Ethan and Lisa serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed. It reminds us that sometimes the things we value most are the ones we already have, and that chasing after more can lead to our downfall. Just as the farmer and his wife in Aesop's fable lost their source of wealth by killing their magical goose, Ethan and Lisa lost everything by trying to get all the golden eggs at once. In the end, they learned that true happiness and success come not from wealth, but from contentment and gratitude for what we already have.